everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your Friday to join us for this webinar centered around Empower Her Access. We're going to be talking today about the impact of COVID-19 on women technology entrepreneurs. And this session is brought to you in partnership with M12, Microsoft's venture capital fund, and Women in Cloud. So thank you for being here today. And let's get started. So for those of you where Women in Cloud is new to you, I want to start by, I'll tell you a little bit about Women in Cloud, but first let's get to know each other a little bit. I want you to share in the chat, what is one thing you want to do in life, but don't know where to start? And I'm going to ask the question as well to our panelists that are joining us today. You guys can come off of mute and turn your camera on. So let's start with, Colleen OBrien. Tell me, what's one thing you want to do in life, but you don't know where to start?
Raisa, great question. Thanks for kicking off with me. So one thing that I would like to do in life and have no idea where to start is to become more of a comedy writer. One thing that I found so much happiness and solace in during the past 18 months of this pandemic has been reading funny things. And I would love to write them as well.
That is very cool and something I never would have expected of you, but I love that I know that now. So that's pretty cool. I might actually know some resources to help you get started with that. So let's go to our next panelist, Olivia. Are you there? Olivia, hi. What is one thing you want to do in life, but you don't know where to start?
This is a very deep question, on a very surface level. I want to do more in like visually creative. I own a camera. I think I'd like to enjoy, not professionally necessarily, but as a hobby, get more into photography or videos and stuff like that. And I haven't taken the plunge or figured out exactly how to work that into my life yet.
Raisa, you're on mute.
Thank you, Colleen. You will get there, I'm sure, Olivia. I'm certain we have connections in the network that can make these things come to life for you. Chaitra Vidilapalli, are you there? What's one thing that you want to do in life, but you don't know where to start yet?
I think I'm in the same boat as Olivia. Like, it's more of a hobby thing, is want to learn food photography and plating skills. It's always been a dream, but I don't know how to do it properly. So that is a hobby I wanted to kind of hone on and use the phone to do it. I do it, but it's not there yet. So I want to get it to a professional level.
Plating skills, I'm totally with you on that. It's an art I really admire. I would say for myself, one thing that I want to learn, that I want to do, I'm so lost on it, but I really want to start like a small farm and an animal sanctuary, just because my my retirement plans is literally just to be surrounded by a little farm and a bunch of animals that need love. So let's get started today. You guys go ahead and share in the chat what's one thing you want to do in life but don't know where to start. Today we're going to be talking about what's been impacting us over the past, year and a half now, and really talking about the landscape where we are now and what solutions we can put in place to really change the future and sustainable solutions. So those of you that are new to Women in Cloud, we are a community-led economic development organization, and we are working to take action to generate over $1 billion in net new global economic access for women tech entrepreneurs by 2030. And we're doing that through partnerships with corporations, community leaders, and policymakers. So we have 3 pillars, ways that we do that: through community events, partnering with Fortune brands and focusing on entrepreneurial acceleration and policy advancement. So this session today really covers quite a few of those, and we're going to dive in to what we uncovered through our recent COVID-19 impact survey. So today we have a great group of ladies joining us as speakers. We have Olivia Bechtold, who's going to start off by sharing the results from the 2021 edition of the COVID-19 impact report. Then we'll go into a fireside chat led by Chaitra Vidulapalli with Colleen OBrien of M12, talking about really shaping the sustainable growth for women tech entrepreneurs and the landscape there. Then once we talk about setting the stage and where we are now, then we'll go into solutions for women tech entrepreneurs and sharing those opportunities and resources with all of you that are joining us here today. Then we'll close and share all of these resources with you at the close of today's event. So today, as I mentioned, we have a great lineup of women joining us. Chaitra Vidulapalli, she's the president and co-founder of Women in Cloud. Also, we have Colleen OBrien, the CMO of M12 Microsoft's Venture Capital Fund, and Olivia Bechtold, who's the marketing communication specialist with Women in Cloud and also Hello Friday Marketing. Welcome, ladies. So great to have you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Olivia to start sharing with us the findings from the survey that we recently did. Olivia, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with a kind of overview of the 2021 results and then look at how that compares to the 2020 results. So for those of you who don't know, this is a second edition of this research project. We've originally put out a survey in 2020 and a report going with that about the initial impact and the projections and predictions for the impact as the pandemic continued. So in our 2021 responses, the revenue lost to date by women technology entrepreneurs and their businesses has been between 50 and 100K as the kind of median. Some have lost far, far more than that. Similarly, opportunity loss to date has been over $50,000 as an average. These things are caused by postponed or canceled projects, lost income, pipeline freezing, also things like not being able to travel or attend events and network, and additional operational costs like rent and utilities that have needed to be paid while the pandemic lockdowns have continued. Similarly, in addition to the financial and opportunity loss, we also looked at emotional impact, and we had 60% of this year's respondents indicate that they've had a negative or somewhat negative emotional impact as a result of the pandemic. So when we look at how that compared to 2020, so in 2020, our respondents projected $1 million in revenue loss over 2 years. So if you look at the revenue loss to date of an average of $50,000 to $100,000, we're about a year-ish into it. And if this continues, we may start to see getting closer and closer to that projected loss. Same with opportunity loss. The projections were of $5 million. Opportunity loss to date is at 50,000 or more, but as we continue to see additional lockdowns occur and restrictions, this could easily exceed the predicted amounts. In addition to that, we also saw 25% of respondents have indicated they've had to downsize their companies in the last year or implement a work from home policy. So people are really having to shift how they're doing things and try and combat those costs that they're incurring. Similarly, we had 49% of 2020 respondents indicate a negative or somewhat negative emotional impact. This is actually much higher among 2021 respondents. So 60% indicated that response this year. Similarly, on being surveyed on their stress and anxiety levels, we saw a 6% increase in 2021, but that's from 78% to 82.5%. So even though the financial, we're not quite hitting those projections yet, the emotional toll that this pandemic has caused is far greater than I think we could have predicted. So some of the things that Women in Cloud and M12 are doing with their partners and community is doubling down on Fortune 100 engagement and access through a number of different programs and events. We're also looking at ways we can invest in digital customer acquisition and support women's investment in that when it comes to our marketplace, our own digital marketplace, other marketplaces, and cloud vendors. We're looking at ways we can find access to financial assistance for women entrepreneurs to help offset some of those costs that they've incurred throughout the years, as well as help them recover in the loss, and also help build a plan to have a cloud innovation pipeline and provide innovation grants. So currently there's a rule that a certain number of founders need to be female in order to access a lot of innovation grants and other financial assistance. And so we're looking to really work with policymakers and big companies to change those rules. And I know that's one of the things that Chaitra and Colleen are going to talk to you about next.
Thank you, Olivia. This one was very, very insightful and fantastic work you have done to pull the report together. So as Women in Cloud is going to be working on the programs and strategies to create more access to investment, access to people, or access to program, you also have a role as an entrepreneur to take action. You have a role is to really share this report with your investors, with the policymakers in your local community, and also corporate executives who are in your network. And this particular commission work that we did with M12 Venture is extremely valuable because you can really share the landscape of the things that are happening for women tech founders, because we are going back, we are not going forward. We do need to come and intervene and make stuff. So, and then you also need to take action and understand how they can create access. How can your network create access? And if they don't have answers and they are not providing you tangible, recommend them as Women in Cloud as a economic development solution that they can invest, they can participate, they can advance to really create a sustainable growth. So today I have here with me Colleen OBrien. She's the CMO at M12 Ventures, a very good friend of mine too. So I had a fortunate to work with her for the last 5 years. And really, whenever I personally struggle in this space, I will go to her as my strategic advisor. So Colleen, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Chaitra, the feeling is mutual. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really enjoy our collaboration with you, and the amount of great work we are doing in this space it's going to be a legacy work for years to come, where we will be able to probably move a policy change over the next couple of years. So before I talk more about it, tell me about you and your role at M12, and how do you really serve the ecosystem of tech founders?
Great, happy to dive in here. As Chaitra mentioned, I'm Colleen OBrien. I lead marketing and communications for M12, which is Microsoft's venture fund. We invest in software startups that are disrupting the enterprise. So no B2C investments right now, primarily focused on B2B. 2021 actually marks our 5-year anniversary as a fund, and we have a portfolio of 85 active companies, 18 exits, 13 unicorns, lots of momentum. So to focus on serving the ecosystem, a significant part of my work is advising those early stage startups that are in our portfolio. So working so closely with them over the past year and a half in particular, I have witnessed the entire spectrum of what COVID's impact has been on the startup community. So remote work has accelerated the digital transformation of several Fortune 500 companies, oftentimes the customers of these startups. And many of our startups have benefited from that acceleration. They're on the super successful side, but others have really faced tremendous headwinds and struggled to lead through such a difficult time. In addition to working with our portfolio companies, I manage our partnerships with community-based organizations, including Women in Cloud. At M12, we seek to realize a more inclusive startup and venture ecosystem, and that's why we establish partnerships like this. Black and brown founders, color and tech are among some of our community-based partners. And all of that is really to make sure that the investments that we're making are truly representative of what the founders in the world have to offer.
Absolutely, Colleen. And the more we look at how the investors are investing, they're actually spending more and more into an enterprise SaaS solution. And that is the trend we are seeing. And the representation of women is so low there. And that's what the Women in Cloud ecosystem is spending more and more to make sure that we have the right ecosystem to help. So Colleen, as you sponsored the second edition of Impact Report, and thank you for doing that for us. Why is this so important for you and for your organization? And why has this research a priority for M12 to sponsor this year?
Yeah, so M12 has long been a supporter of female founders. We had our inaugural Female Founders Competition in 2018, and that we're tracing that all the way to our standing partnership with Women in Cloud. We also have a national partnership with the nonprofit organization All-Raise, which seeks greater gender equity in both founding and funding, so on both the founder side and the VC side of things. But we're always on the lookout for ways that we can better be supporting women tech founders. And, the motivation was also very pivotal to the moment in time. If we transport back to September of 2020, I read some Politico coverage recently that showed that 800,000 women dropped out of the workforce September 2020 compared to about 100,000 men. So 8 times the number of women dropped out of the workforce in that month alone. And even at the time, we saw that COVID was having this outsized impact on women, particularly on women at work. We also understand that this is a data point that sparked our interest, but there's a much larger story to tell. And we wanted to understand the specific drivers and challenges, as well as the path forward. So I know, Traicha, that Senator Patty Kuderer put an initial request out to Women in Cloud to understand, what is the data behind this? How should we be moving forward? We live in this data-driven world. Data is such a common language, and partnering on the COVID impact report was a way for us to help establish that baseline and chart a path forward.
Absolutely, Colleen. And when Senator Patty Kuderer asked us last year when the COVID hit, we really didn't know what to even anticipate. And this report has given us a lot of pivotal data points to really do effective programming for the community. And because of this work, we have, I would say, 5 times the community has grown, the programs have grown, and we have become very laser focused on what we really need to do. Right. And as part of it, Colleen, talk to me about is what trends that you are seeing from M12 that is making you pause and explore pivots to shape investments and guidance for your portfolio companies?
Yeah, so I will answer this question in 2 different ways. First, I'll talk about some of the trends that we're seeing with our portfolio companies, and then I'll talk a little bit about investment trends that we're seeing in the market at large. So from a portfolio company perspective, fundraising is an incredible trend that we're seeing accelerating really quickly right now. There is so much money in the market. There are so many new players in the investment community, and startups are raising much larger rounds, even starting at that seed stage. Seeing a multi-million-dollar seed stage funding round is happening more commonly now. And in addition to those larger rounds, we're seeing fundraising happening at a quickening pace as well. Year over year, funds are getting our rounds are getting fundraised. The next big trend that we're seeing is around go-to-market and increasing digital engagement with customers. And for some of the B2C entrepreneurs out there, they might think like, well, obviously this is table stakes. You need to have a great digital presence to engage your customers. But in the B2B world, there's largely a lot of in-person handshaking that still happens in order to sell your solution. So shoring up remote selling capabilities has been very critical. That ability to sell a technology product or service without that in-person interaction. It's been a really interesting time for me and the communication space. If you cannot have your chief technology officer in a room speaking with an IT pro, does anyone know how your technology works? And getting super crisp on your value propositions with your copywriting, what your product does and does not do, who you do and do not serve, has been really very important. And the last big bucket in this portfolio company trends that we've been keeping an eye on has been all about talent. The Great Resignation is affecting a lot of industries across the board. But something that we've been noticing with our portfolio companies in particular is that roles are just staying open longer. People are just being very cautious about the next big commitment they're making after a significant life change, like working through a pandemic. But across our 85 active portfolio companies, there are almost 2,500 open roles right now. And there's a particular dearth in the cybersecurity talent pool. We're experiencing that across the public and private sector. So those are all of our portfolio company trends that we're seeing. But there's also a lot going on in the investment community at large. For us in particular, our approach has become increasingly global over the past 18 months. For many VC firms located in Silicon Valley, located in these innovation hubs around the world, they've been laser focused on the startups that have their headquarters sort of in like the immediate 100-mile radius around where their office location is. Meeting in person prior to the pandemic was important. Like you wouldn't invest millions of dollars in someone who you had never met in person. That was taboo, that was unheard of. But now that it's as easy to jump on the phone and speak with a founder in Malaysia as it is with someone in Boston, time zones permitting, we've become increasingly global in how we think about who the best founders are. So we've been investing outside of some of our standard innovation hubs, and we're seeing that sort of across the industry as well. And then some of the technology trends that are on our radar, most of these will probably seem pretty standard to folks on the phone, but increasingly digitization of spaces. We see this a lot with Industry 4.0 and smart factories, where several processes are already automated. But how do we ensure that experiments can continue happening in a lab, even if biologists aren't there physically in person? Or how do we make sure that inventory is still getting managed in a warehouse if employees are forced to work from home? So digitization of spaces and Internet of Things, digital twins and sensors, that's one big bucket. Cybersecurity, as I mentioned beforehand, another area of exponential expansion. And then a final two that I'll touch on, space tech. We've seen a lot of movement in the space industry, particularly in the past several months, and that promises to be a new industry of great opportunity. And lastly, the transformation of healthcare and life sciences, whether that's synthetic biology and chemistry, AI drug discovery, clinical trial and modernization. The last 18 months have shown us that a lot of our healthcare just wasn't working for a lot of people. And some of the pivots that we've had to make are probably going to be staying for the long term.
And Colleen, what you're saying is very, very, I would say, identical to when we look at the portfolio of our companies who are going through the accelerator. The things they're asking for is investment access, digital marketing. We used to do a smaller portion of go-to-market, but the more we look at, they really want to do is virtual selling. How do you do it? And how do you leverage events to create that? And there's a huge demand for us to kind of support their growth. But from an investment trend perspective, I think we are in aligned. I think you should look at the portfolio of companies from the cohort number 5 and 6. It aligns to pretty much there. We do not have anybody from the space tech. I would love some female tech founders from the space techs to be part of the cohort. And Colleen, you looked at the report and you looked at the data that came out of the research. So what data really resonated with you, and what do you believe we should go, double down in investment in the next 3 years? And do you feel like the WIC is actually putting the right investment and the right focus?
Yeah, the part of the report that was most compelling to me was all about the recovery recommendations and resources. I think all of us has experienced a significant amount of challenge over the past 18 months, whether it has been professionally, personally, from a mental health perspective. So I was drawn immediately to how do we move forward here? And a lot of those recovery recommendations are really about who you know. Like, this was a flag through the reporting mechanism that women tech entrepreneurs need more connections, that networking is everything. Getting introduced and expanding networks showed up as some of the top opportunities for how we can move forward. So the way that I looked at that was really doubling down and being more reflective about my own sphere of influence, figuring out where I can be supportive and making the connections, really assessing my network to figure out proactively, like, where can I connect the dots, even if someone hasn't reached out cold for a connection. Of course, there are some incredible Women in Cloud initiatives in this space. I know that you'll speak a little bit more about them today. Actually, do you want to take some time to talk about Get Introduced?
No, go ahead. You can talk about it, and then we'll share it at the end of the session too.
Great, excellent. So there's one initiative from Women in Cloud in particular that I have already been a part of that I'm really excited to explore even more. But a database of individuals who are sort of raising their hand to say, I'm willing to serve as an advisor, a mentor, a connection to this community more broadly. And Chaitra and her team are making really fantastic connections by making that database accessible to women tech founders. They reach out for a very specific purpose, which is always super helpful for folks who have a busy schedule, but knowing exactly who you're speaking to, how you got connected, and the purpose for the call is all super important for making it a productive platform.
And Colleen, you're right. When we looked at the report, like 70% of the people who took the survey, they said they needed warm introduction. And we've been doing through Excel spreadsheet and doing through the traditional way of warm introduction. But we saw this as an opportunity to automate through technology. That was a digitization work. And today we'll do a demo. So all of you who are here, we will make sure if you're requesting introduction, we will make sure that introduction happens for you. So that's my promise for each one of you. So Colleen, looking at some of the data, when you look at this report, are you hopeful about the path forward, and what should be some of the priorities that we should be looking after or looking at?
Yeah, so the most compelling and hopeful data point that I observed was this confidence in personal and organizational recovery increasing year over year. It's hopeful for me to see that the women who answered this survey also feel very hopeful about the future, and that despite the fact that this pandemic is stretching out perhaps beyond where we thought it might, that hope is maintained. And then in terms of priorities where we should focus, just reflecting on some of these requests for connections, requests for deal intros, network expansion, I felt particularly compelled to think about helping people close deals. Everyone working at an enterprise company is in the position to broker a connection between an enterprise buyer and a founder, a solution creator. So it's really about the amount of effort that you're willing to put in finding the right buyer for that solution. But this is my plea to not underestimate your opportunity to like fundamentally change the trajectory of a founder's business. If you're inside the company, you are significantly closer to that enterprise buyer than any founder is. So assess what that means and how you can make the right connections. I will say this all with a caveat. Mental health is critical, boundaries are important. But on those days where you have a little bit more energy and a little bit more space in your schedule, you know, put a post-it on your computer. You know, how might I take these 15 minutes to help a woman in tech build her business?
Sure, Colleen, very impactful suggestions for all of us. This is something I'm going to ask you to kind of do a deeper down on it, is what are the ways should like tech companies and communities like us be partnering with the VC funds and investor and to create more access to funding and or resources? What are the ways we need to look at? If you can share some ideas, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. So if you think about the motivations of a venture capital firm, the top priority that I would say, the key motivator that you can hinge on in brokering some of these conversations is all about deal flow, getting into the best deals. You know, there are several diversity mandated VCs, but the majority of venture firms are not experts in diversity and inclusion. And decades of pattern matching has made for relatively homogenous portfolios. In other words, if an investor has had particular success with a founder who looks a certain way or has a specific pedigree, they are incentivized to continue investing in that type of person. But as venture firms receive or are under greater pressure to diversify, not only from a moral perspective, but from a financial perspective, identity-based organizations like Women in Cloud can work with VCs to surface really great deals that meet their investment criteria, but also happen to be founded by someone who is underrepresented in their portfolios. So constantly thinking about deal flow and flagging those great opportunities to VCs. A second opportunity that I see there is about ongoing education and VC training. Again, working at Microsoft, I've had great opportunity and exposure to world-class diversity, equity, and inclusion training materials. That's not necessarily the case for many venture capital firms. They need more training, more exposure, more help to understand how they should assess their pipelines, where they could start thinking about investing more inclusively. So coming to the table with some consultation or some training to offer is another great area of opportunity. And then lastly, you know, several enterprise organizations have made specific commitments in their procurement departments about the ways that they're going to be spending enterprise dollars more inclusively. Several organizations have specific programs to ensure that minority and women enterprise businesses, MWBE is the official term, have a fair shot at opportunities within their enterprise organization. Supplier diversity programs are becoming more and more popular. So getting connected with procurement leaders at an organization is another great way that community and identity-based orgs can provide value to the Fortune 500, to those big enterprise companies.
Oh, well said, Colleen. Before we conclude, there are a few questions from the audience, which I want to kind of facilitate. And for all the members who are listening, please share your question, because the more we have a dialogue around this topic and then work together for policy changes, access changes, we can definitely advance it. So the first question I have for you, Colleen, is how did you reach your level of success given the sector's gender gap, especially among leadership?
I am not going to say anything different than what is reflected in this report. Networking has been so critical for me in making the different moves in my career. I've had the least success in my career when I am applying to jobs cold, when I am in a period of desperation and need my next role. It's always been really important for me to be thinking steps ahead and starting to build those relationships before it's time for me to move into that role. So networking, keeping my network warm, keeping everyone up to date on what I've been working on, what I'm trying to do next. That has been really critical. And then your network lifts you up. They're the ones who sort of carry you to your next opportunity. So yeah, again, nothing that's too disparate from what's reflected in this report.
So true. And Colleen, I would add a little bit is I usually maintain is a dream 100 list of people that I want to build a relationship and contribute to them. Not like I'm getting something, but I want to contribute through ideas or friendship or things that we can do together. And it becomes really powerful. And then you have a very warm community that you're working with. So here's the second question. This is a very interesting one is, considering all the portfolio company trends that you're seeing, what kind of opportunities do you hope for women?
Looking at across the investment landscape is how I'm interpreting this. Coupled with these commitments from enterprise corporations to be spending more inclusively, the sky is the limit for women entrepreneurs. If you are coming into the market and building a solution, particularly in one of these areas of great investment, of enterprise focus, that really is going to serve a large organization in the future, there is no cap on what is possible. Focusing your energies on those opportunity areas and brokering those connections or getting connected to the right folks internally in procurement offices, that's where the opportunity is.
Yeah, and Colleen, every enterprise is different. So I think if you really want to know what is the opportunity, yes, it may be like said as hybrid work, but the flavor of the hybrid work in the enterprise may look a little bit different from if you go from Estee Lauder to Microsoft, it's very different. So your role is to really have a conversation, seek an advisory conversation with a company, with a laser focused target companies, and go and have a conversation with them to understand where are they spending the money for the next a year to 2 years. So that way you can start to see, does your value prop or solution that you're building align to that organization, or there is a market demand for it?
And I'll add one other thing. I've been hyper focused on procurement because that's where all of these great commitments about inclusive spending are getting made, but also identifying who's your target buyer at an organization and how do you start building inroads there? Because your target buyer could be that champion that ushers you through the procurement process. So again, one more note for networking.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is the last one is everyone wants to know is how does the space tech sector look like for female tech founders in 2022? Because Colleen, I don't want to go to Mars for sure, but I would love to go to the surface of the Earth, come back and just look at this beautiful planet. So what do you think is going to happen there in that sector?
Yeah, the space tech sector is the Wild West right now. But I'll answer this the way that I oftentimes talk about selling into the government with our portfolio companies. So oftentimes, like pivoting to a new sector, individuals will wonder, like, what's my value proposition for the government versus this enterprise organization? And oftentimes I have to explain the same things that we're doing at work every day. Government officials need to do those things too. So there's so much applicability of your solution that's driving so much productivity, so much operational excellence at a large corporation to bring that into our government as well. And sort of on the same side of the coin, everything that we are doing, whether it's processing data, whether it's running AI and ML models, all of that's going to have to take place in space as well. So whether you're focusing on, private sector space tourism or optimizing cybersecurity for space travel, everything that we're doing here on Earth, we're going to have to do in space eventually. So yes, it is the Wild West. The sky is literally the sky is not the limit. Space is the limit.
Well, but here is the thing. If anyone builds a solution for the space tech, please let us know. We can all go together to the space and experience it. Because I'm telling you, I don't even, like, that's a wild, wild west, and it's going to be pretty exciting. Again, Colleen, this one was really amazingly intelligent conversation, and hope all the attendees also enjoyed as I did. Do you have any thoughts or wisdom that you want to share with all the entrepreneurs here, and any steps that they can take as they move on to the journey of building their solution?
I'll answer this question more generally, just because I know that the past several weeks have been really challenging as we all figure out that this pandemic is not over. Personally, it has been a bit of a minefield for me to navigate from a mental health perspective. And one strategy that I've been using both at home and in work is to write down the things that I'm looking forward to have something that's on the horizon that's giving me energy. So whether that's the announcement of a big project or customer that you've been able to attain, or penciling in watching Ted Lasso on Friday after work, eating a breakfast sandwich in the park, planning things to look forward to as we continue to navigate COVID-19, that is my advice.
And thank you, Colleen. I will share something that I've been doing. It's like 5 Stoic meditations, and that kind of helps you keep your mind a little bit sane. And if any one of you are interested, I'll share, but Colleen, I'll definitely share. It's a very profound insight to keep you sane during the insane moments that we live in. And again, you've been a fantastic partner, fantastic friend, and we really enjoyed having the conversation with you today. So with that, now everybody's waiting for, what is the solution? What are we providing to all of you? As we talked about from the report, 70% of the survey respondents said they wanted was warm introduction, and Colleen already talked about it. So what we want to take you through is the platform that we have built, and each one of you can request an introduction. So with that, Riza, if you can move to the next slide. So the way the application is designed, it's a double opt-in platform. That means is the way you do warm introduction, you never do is automatic introduction. Usually you check in with somebody saying, look at this one, there's a request and they want to have this conversation. You check in with them, when they confirm, then you get people come together and then make that introduction. So over the last year and a half, we've been doing an average of 10 to 25 introductions over the week, and sometimes it's per day, depending upon what the entrepreneurs were looking for. So it was becoming extremely hard. So what we really decided was, let's digitize the solution and let's bring the technology to work. And that's how exactly that, everyone is doing. So what we wanted to do is take you through a quick demo and give you access to the technology. And over the next 3 months, we will be really working on bringing the best of the best advisors in our network. And you have access to these people who can really provide you as a moment in time advice, so you can move forward in your business building, so you can actually accomplish it, whether it's VC investment conversation to building a tech solution, or whether you want to penetrate into a new market, they will be able to help you with that. So with that, Riza, I would love you to take people through a demo, and I will ask each one of you to take time today to really request introduction. And then we'll talk about some cool things that are coming.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chaitra. So everyone, as Chai mentioned, what I want to dive in now is how to actually use the solution that's been developed, the Get Introduced app. So what you can do through here is you can request those warm introductions with industry leaders. Chai said as well, it's a double opt-in system. So, when the request is sent to the advisor, they have the choice to approve or decline. And then when they come back to you, it's an email communication driven system through each step of the process. So you are engaged the entire way through. Once the connection is made, then you can connect, schedule some time to get on a call or connect by email. So you as the advisee really drives the conversation. So we want to walk you through how Get Introduced works. And I know the link has been shared in the chat so you can get started. So I'll show you what it actually looks like from the start of it. And I want you to think about this from the mindset of requesting a warm introduction. So if you go to intro.womenincloud.com, you'll be able to see the list of advisors that have raised their hands. These are all members of our Cloud Leader Circle, and they've all said that they would be open to having an advisory conversation with entrepreneurs and the WIC community to create access. So one of the features I want to show you is that, you'll see a whole bunch of people here, but what you can do is really narrow it down by filters in searching for identity type. Say you're looking for a policymaker or investor, and then you want to search by sector or industry, and that'll help narrow things down. So I'll go ahead and click on one of those and show you how that works there. So say, for example, you see Rajiv Kapoor's profile here, and he identifies what sector he can speak to, what industry he can advise on, and then very easy and clearly defined here is what you can ask Rajiv about. So these are the things, speaking of, the clear ask me about, when you as someone that's making that request for an introduction are want to get introduced, it's very important that you consider crafting a clear ask. Make sure it's something very tangible, something that is actionable, not vague or something that you can find by, just doing a simple search online, right? You want to make sure that you are very, very precise in what your why is, what your ask is, and what you're looking to get out of the conversation. Remember, advisorship is different from mentorship, where it's a moment in time exchange. So it's not a long-term sort of relationship, although it can grow into one, but that's based on the advisor and their commitment. But really think of this as an opportunity for you to get an answer to a question that you need. And Chaitra, is there anything you wanted to add here before I continue going on about how to make that request?
Absolutely. So if you keep going down the form, there is a specific place is describe what you would like to discuss. This is a place to have a very clear ask. What we are, because that is what an advisor has asked us to make sure the ask is clear. So if you see, if you have seen Colleen today, you may say, I want to meet Colleen because I attended an event. That would not really help us really make an introduction. You may want to write is, I have a space tech technology and I want to validate if the space tech technology is the right solution. Should we be even considering? That would be a great conversation to have with Colleen, and then she can find the right people who are working in that space. So that is what a right conversation would look like. The other thing is, if you want to meet with Olivia and to discuss the report, you can request is, I heard about the report. I want to go deep dive on that particular space around recommendation. Can we spend some time? Absolutely, we will make those introduction. As we said, it's a double opt-in. The value for our advisor time is extremely valuable. And they have said they're going to do anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 introductions per month. So we want to make sure we are giving them the best and the best quality introduction so they can really add value to you.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Chaitra. It's really very important. And actually, one of the things, we're not just going to leave you out in the wind and say, craft a clear ask and not really give any guidance. A part of being in the WIC community is that, we're going to share guidance. So I shared with you how to actually go about finding the advisors. You can go through the entire list and, see what's really important to you. Do your research before you reach out, make your request, right, to get introduced. You can make sure that you, again, are very clear, understand what you're looking for, and are purposeful. So one of the things that we have as well is that we have a 7-day Get Introduced challenge that is coming up, and it's going to launch on October 8th. So we want you to take the time to actually sign up to participate in this challenge. And it's really an opportunity for you to get introduced to fellow challenge participants. We're going to have a private group. You'll get access to networking opportunities. You'll get insight on budding future cloud solutions, and you'll be able to really learn practical tips about how to get those warm introductions, how to craft a clear ask, how to get access to opportunities, and really participate and engage in that collective influence. And every day of the challenge, it will be led by an expert in the industry. You'll be receiving updates and tips and best practices and resources. So I want to encourage you to take time to sign up to join that special challenge that's coming up. And I'll talk you through the journey that you can expect too. So you'll learn about creating economic access for women in technology, because it's not just about giving or getting access, it's also about giving access. And then you'll learn about those best practices and how you as well, if you're interested in becoming a cloud leader and an advisor yourself, you can understand about how to unlock the power of your advisory voice and to grow your network, understanding your why, right? Why is this and creating access even important to you, and the value of advisorship. We'll also share with you how you can share this tool and give access to your network so they can also request warm introductions. And then we'll talk about how to make your presence count at Wix signature events. So the goal is really to harness the community to come together to create 1,000 connections by the end of November. And it starts with you. You know your ask. You don't be shy to reach out there and take action. So let's start talking about a few opportunities that we have for you, in addition to this the Get Introduced app and the 7-day challenge that's coming up. So I'm going to invite Chaitra to come on and share a bit about a course that we have available in the Women in Cloud Digital Academy. And this course is called Winning and Keeping Enterprise Contracts. Within this course, you can learn how to sell cloud solutions to enterprise customers. And Chaitra, what would you say is the real value that entrepreneurs can get out of participating in this course, and what resources do they get when they dive further in here?
Sure, Raisa. And this one was really designed because winning and keeping enterprise contracts, especially the tech contracts, was it's a knowledge that is only available to very few people. It's a very tight. This knowledge is not easily accessible, so we wanted to make this knowledge accessible to the community if they want to pursue and win and keep their enterprise contract. So it kind of goes through a journey to help you have all the tools and the templates and the best practices to help you really accomplish that goal. Because we know right now the biggest amount of spend that's happening is in the enterprise space. Last year it was estimated at 700 billion, but it is trending to $1 trillion of opportunity. Why not go there? Because building $1 million business in an enterprise will take you a year to 2, whereas in a consumer, it may take longer time, but it's timing based. This one is really value based and impact based. So that's why we have created this content that's made available. So I know a couple of you have taken the courses, and if you had a great experience, please share, feedback with us so that we know that we want to keep improving this particular track and make this content really rich and robust.
Thank you so much, Chaitra. And as we go forward, there's more solutions really to address. I think we've covered so many things on this call already. We've talked about where we are now and what we can do to really create that sustainable change for women entrepreneurs out there in the tech industry. And some of the other things I want to point out to you is that we do have, our Cloud Accelerator program, where we recently launched our 6.0 cohort, and now we have applications open for the 7.0 cohort. So if you're thinking about if this is right for you, or if you have questions and you're looking to take your solution to be enterprise ready and co-build and co-market with hyperscalers such as Microsoft, reach out and you can join us at one of the upcoming open houses where you can learn more about the Cloud Accelerator program and see if this is right for your company and your solution. And speaking of solutions, and we were talking about digital selling earlier on in the fireside chat, we do have the Wix Solution Marketplace as well. It's live, it's free to publish your solution, and it is the first and only marketplace that showcases solutions that are developed by women tech founders. And it's a place that enterprises can and Fortune brands can go to easily find those diverse and innovative solutions developed by women. So I encourage you to go and get started today on the process of submitting your solution to the Wix Solution Marketplace today. And finally, we will be sharing with you at the end of this call, when we send out our post-event email, access to the Enterprise Cloud Solution Planning Toolkit. Now, this is the ultimate toolkit. It has everything that you're going to need to get started. And it has access to lots of different worksheets and guidance and tips, and access to digital swag and all sorts of great things in there. So I know that also in the chat, you're going to be sent the link so you can download that, and even other worksheets that you may need to get up-level your business, get yourself on the right track, and keep that forward momentum going. Okay, and then finally, I want to extend an invitation to all of you that are here with us today. We talked about the resources. Now let's talk about where you can engage and network, right? So I spoke earlier about the Cloud Accelerator Open House. The next one we have is coming up on September 24th at 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. And we'll, again, you'll learn about the digital experience, what you can expect, learn about the program outline and the benefits of joining the Cloud Accelerator. Next, for those of you that are interested in meeting Boeing leaders, learning about channel partnerships, seeking jobs with Boeing, learning about what Boeing is looking for, right? This is an opportunity for you to kind of get into a reverse pitching experience with Boeing and get to meet with them at a brief networking session and ask your questions, get answers to your questions, put that, that clear ask task kind of into action there. Really go and meet with these people. Then we have the Accenture CXO panel that's coming up. It's an intimate conversation with executive women leading financial services. That's going to be on September 29th. And here as well, you'll get the opportunity to connect in breakout sessions about a number of different topics with leaders at Accenture. And we're going to have speakers from Farmers Insurance and Alight Solutions and more. So we really want to encourage you to sign up there. More information on all of these is available in our WIC Digital Network. And then we have our signature event that's held in tandem with the UN General Assembly. It's called WIC UNGA. It's a 2-day event, October 14th and 15th. Lots and lots of opportunities here for cloud employability and skilling. You get to take part in a hands-on cloud day, a Build for 2030 hackathon, Ask Me Anything session, leadership roundtables, learning how to be a valuable advisor, how to build a high trust relationship. So much content, really valuable. Sign up and secure your spot today. And then finally, on October 29th, we'll be unveiling the WIC Summit 2022 that happens in January. We can talk more to you about learn how to become a speaker and advisor, and you'll learn about all of the sneak peeks of everything we have going on at that event. So I hope you all have found a lot of value in everything that we have shared with you today. And, I know that this has been a wealth of information, And I want you all to take a moment. Let us know if you feel that you've learned something today from our session. Feel free to share your feedback on a scale of 1 to 10. Tell me if you feel like you got value out of attending today. 10 being, yes, I'm energized. I know my next steps, and wow, I feel really motivated. 1 being, how did I get to this meeting and where am I? And still completely unsure. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. We are so happy that you spent time with us today. And Chaitra, is there anything you wanted to close with or let everybody know before we wrap up today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Raisa. Fantastic work in the demo. And Colleen, Olivia, thank you so much for taking the time and for supporting this work.